Or just get zeros because they were like, these guys are just like,
get
around
tissues.
And we'll just have to talk loud as well to make sure that we're actually heard. Is that recording? I think it is, isn't it?
like
Get
around
tissues
us.
through.
Do we have
Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about Myanmar for a little bit.
Myanmar is located in southeastern Asia between Bangladesh and Thailand.
Right.
It has a population of just over 55 million. And they have high rates of AIDS mortality, so the life expectancy is a lot lower. They're mostly Buddhist.
Very communist. And Buddhism and communism seems such a strange dichotomy. Only recently, was it 2011 that it became that the Democratic League party took over? And now it is a democratic country, burgeoning democracy, but it still has a military background that are running it. What did anybody else find out about Myranmar?
They have been there since the 12th century at least. So they were a Muslim group. The Muslims are the minority. British brought in the Bengali Muslims. Then as soon as the British left, they started to become oppressed. So this includes the Rohingya and the Bengali.
So they don't consider them
They don't consider them
citizens of Myanmar.
try to wipe out their entire culture basically. Yeah. Eventually they start fleeing, and so far there's an estimated 1 million have fled since 1970, and lots of them are not even making it to where they're fleeing to, right?
They're dying in transit.
Even though the Hmong came to North America, they still had to be assimilated by the Americans. They started having their culture oppressed. So the Rohingya, wherever they're going, will probably have their culture still oppressed in some way.
And because they have low education levels too, coming to a new society is not going to be easy for them to get a job and be part of the economy, right? So it's that already suppresses them even further. What do you find, Mitch?
They don't really have a universal healthcare like we do here, but they've been transitioning into where citizens can purchase health insurance. If you're a Rohingya, you can't do that because you're not considered a citizen, right? So immediately that limits their access to any type of healthcare, right? 70% of the population lives in rural locations, and they don't have nearly enough, nurses, dentists, physicians to be able to cater to that population whatsoever, especially when you're having millions of people that are being displaced. So hopefully the international community will step up and take in some of these Rohingya, and then when they come to Canada or the United States, you're going to have kind of the same health crisis we explored in the book, which is a complete cultural misunderstanding and just a lack of the ability to work together, right? So we as healthcare providers need to look at educating ourselves.
How do we go about, even as healthcare professionals, trying to understand how the Rohingya handle disease or how they interpret disease? In the book, we saw it as a fault in her brain chemistry and brain function. What goes in the Rohingya's mind when it comes to interpreting how they see illness? How do we even learn about that? It talked about how the Hmong came when they came to America after the Civil War in Laos. It was going from Stone Age to Space Age. That would be the same for the Rohingya when they get a refugee to the UN Security Council coming into different parts of the Western world.
I think one thing that provides some element of hope is that the Hmong were a very isolated, but the Rohingya are Muslim. Okay. Right? So that means that they're going to have at least some level of support or community in most other nations.
And to build at the same time, if they're getting so isolated in that part of the country, but when they come here and they don't know their language, they don't know how to talk about their spirituality towards medicine and things like that, would they be getting any treated differently? You know what I mean? Right? They're gonna be isolated here in North America.
Yeah, there's language barriers, but there's also the cultural barriers, which was very difficult in the book.
And at the same time, there's so many different cultures, the cultural diversity is just increasing. You learn about one culture, but there's so many other cultures that you don't know about.
When Neil, the physician, we were recommending that she be taken into care so that she could be under a proper medication regimen, I was kind of relieved, right? Even though I'm what's the solution? Because even when the book has given me such a background into the history of the Hmong and why they're doing these things, I still was that's not right.
Yeah, that's interesting because I almost had the other perspective of the importance of letting like the family do their wishes, right?
So we know there's so much more to like health than just the physical side of things. So in a way, the Hmong were better at that.
It's both, isn't it? That's the lesson here. It's both.
Yeah.
You got to find that balance. That there was no balance back then in that from the story.
That just shows that if they do come here, that you gotta make sure they don't end up coming back in the same situation, right?
I think a lot of ethnic groups and a lot of minorities will have that kind of external barrier, but once you penetrate it, and that's where you can affect change.
So it's even more important to have like community nurses who are culturally competent to go to these neighborhoods where you get lots of refugees, like the Rohingya, who may be scared of going to the hospital.
From, like, it's that epidemic, right? They need to understand it from inside the experience of it.
Yeah.
No matter how much I try to be culturally sensitive and study the different cultures, I'll never understand what it's like to be a visible minority. Ideally, if you think about something that you see on the news and it translates into grassroots conversations and action.
Very careful.
More than 500,000 Rohingya have fled
Rohingya.
Myanmar to Bangladesh.
Rohingya.
I'm gonna say
Rohingya.
Right for Rohan!
This podcast is sponsored by.
Indigenous group, the Rohingya.
Yeah.
Pizza's right.
Oh, that's the pizza.
Always fun. Just like.
But it's
good. Like the highlight will be.
it's a lot more natural.
She emailed where you said don't be boring. So I think one should at one point.
Okay, we're gonna go somebody else as well.
We gotta start programming. You gotta hold it together.
Okay, who knows where Myranmar is?
Give me 10 seconds.
So Rohingya, the Rohingya, and the Muslim. The Rohingya.
You want to start over?
No. This is okay.
What's the name?
The Rohingya. I'm just kidding. Then. So. Sorry.
We'll speed this bit up.
Just go faster.
Okay, should I start from the beginning?
Okay.
No. This is a casual.
We'll edit this. Check 2.
It's okay. You can laugh through
I'm not
it.
even looking at
Seriously,
you. Hold on.
you actually can. This is a casual conversation. You
Do
can
I
laugh.
need to look at there? Do you want me to look
No,
at
you look wherever you want to
No,
look.
actually,
man.
what are you guys gonna do? Are you guys gonna just read off of it, or?
Well, look at Mitch.
That's the problem. I feel.
3, 2, 1, go. What do you guys think about that? Because then you can just read off the most important stuff. Like, hey, what did you find? Have the pictures going, and then after we finish that, for comparing it, all the discussion we had, it'll just be like.
I think we should stop the cameras.
Stop this one.
I think even if we just take what we have, there's going to be a golden 6 minutes in there.
Oh yeah.